Hey guys! So you think being a medieval knight sounds impressive? Picture this. You're wearing metal that smells like 100 sweaty gym sessions trapped in a tin can. You haven't properly bathed in weeks. Every time you move, your armor pinches skin in places you didn't know you had. And that's before you even get near a horse that's decided to empty its bowels right where you're standing. Your breakfast was bread so stale it could be used as a weapon, and your underwear is basically a damp rag that's been marinating against your body for days. The toilet situation. Let's just say you're squatting over a bucket in a freezing stone room at 3 in the morning, and everyone can hear everything. If you enjoyed that mental image, then you're going to love this video. Hit that like button and subscribe if you want more historical reality checks. And I'm genuinely curious to know where you're watching from, so tell me in the comments where you are and what time it is right now. So let's step into the world of a medieval knight and see exactly why you wouldn't last a single week in this job. Let's start with the most basic thing, getting dressed. Except it's not like pulling on jeans and a shirt, it's a full production that takes about an hour. You can't do it alone either. You need a grown servant to help you into all the bits and pieces. First comes the padding, thick quilted cloth that's supposed to stop the metal rubbing your skin raw, except it's already stiff with dried sweat from yesterday, and the day before, and possibly last month. Nobody's washing this thing regularly. Water's a hassle to heat and fabric takes forever to dry, so you're pulling on something that feels like a crusty sleeping bag that's been used at a music festival for a week straight. It's got a certain tang to it. Musty, sour, the kind of thing that makes you breathe through your mouth. Then comes the chainmail, thousands of tiny metal rings all linked together. Sounds clever until you realise it weighs about as much as a large dog. Your servant heaves it over your head and it drops onto your shoulders like someone's dumped a sack of stones on you. Your knees buckle slightly, your neck immediately starts to ache, and the whole thing is cold. Freezing cold. Metal doesn't care that it's early morning and you've just rolled out of a bed that was already uncomfortable. It sits against your padded layer like an icy hug you never asked for. In winter, it's even worse. In summer, the metal heats up and you're basically wearing a very expensive oven. Next up, the plate armor. Chest piece, back piece, shoulder guards, arm sections, leg sections. Each bit has to be strapped and buckled in the right order, or it won't move properly. Your servant is fumbling with leather straps that are stiff and awkward. One of the buckles pinches your side. You wince, but you can't really move to adjust it, because you're already half encased in metal. Now, your movement is restricted. Want to scratch your nose? Too bad. Your arm doesn't bend that way anymore. Got an itch on your lower back? Forget it. You're sealed in. You've basically become a very slow, very uncomfortable robot. And we haven't even mentioned the helmet yet. That's the final touch. A metal bucket that goes over your head and limits your vision to a narrow slit. The inside smells like old breath and desperation. There's no padding that's stayed fresh. It's damp in there. The metal presses against your forehead. If you've got even a slight headache, this thing turns it into a full-blown pounding throb. Sound gets muffled. Someone talking to you sounds like they're underwater. You have to turn your whole body to see to the side. Forget about looking down at your feet. You're navigating by memory and hope. Now you're fully dressed and you've already burned more energy than most people use before breakfast. You're hot. You're uncomfortable. You're basically trapped inside your own outfit. And the day hasn't even started. You've got to walk down several flights of stone stairs to get outside. Each step is a careful effort. Your knees are already protesting under the weight. One misstep and you're tumbling down like a tin can full of regret. There's no grabbing the handrail to steady yourself either. Your gauntlets are thick metal gloves that turn your hands into clumsy clubs. Fine motor control is a distant memory. Finally, you're outside. It's muddy. It's always muddy. Medieval streets and courtyards are just dirt that's been trampled by horses, carts, and 1,000 boots. When it rains, which it does constantly, it turns into a slippery sludge. You're trying to walk in 60 pounds of metal through what feels like a chocolate pudding made of soil and questionable deposits from various animals. Your boots sink in with every step. There's a sucking sound as you pull each foot free. Somewhere nearby, a horse has left a fresh steaming pile, and you've just stepped close enough to feel the warmth rising from it. The smell hits you, thick, earthy, unmistakable. You can't even bend down to check if you've actually stepped in it. You just have to keep walking and hope for the best. Let's talk about what you're eating, because it's not great. Breakfast is bread, but not nice bread. This is dense, dark, heavy stuff that's been sitting around for days. It's tough enough to hurt your jaw. You're tearing at it with your teeth like a dog with a toy. There might be some cheese to go with it. Hard cheese, the kind that's more solid than soft. It's got a sharp taste that coats your mouth. If you're lucky, there's some ale. And you are lucky, because the water isn't safe. So you're drinking ale at 7 in the morning. Warm ale. Flat ale. It's better than the alternative, which is getting a stomach complaint that'll have you running for the nearest bucket multiple times a day. Dinner later will be a stew. It's always stew. Meat, vegetables, and a lot of time to think about what might be floating in there. The meat is tough and gristly. You're chewing and chewing, and it's just not breaking down. Sometimes there's a bit of grit in there. Maybe a small stone that was missed when they prepared the grain. You bite down, and your tooth screams in protest. Medieval dentistry is not something you want to experience. There's no gentle cleaning and filling. If a tooth goes bad, it either falls out on its own, or someone pulls it out with pliers while you scream into a rag. So you chew carefully, you pick through your food, and you try not to think too hard about the flavour. The toilet situation deserves its own discussion. There's no bathroom as you know it. There's a privy, a small room with a wooden bench that has a hole in it. The hole drops down into a pit, or sometimes straight out the side of the castle wall. You sit there in the cold. The wooden seat is rough and splintery. There's no toilet paper. You're using a rag or a handful of straw. It's not pleasant. The smell is eye-watering. It's a concentrated fog of everything that's ever been deposited in there. In winter, your bare skin is exposed to freezing air. In summer, the flies are everywhere. Big, lazy flies that buzz around with far too much interest. You do your business as quickly as possible and get out. There's no reading on your phone, no scrolling, just grim efficiency. Bathing is rare, maybe once a month if you're keen. It's a huge effort to heat enough water for a proper bath. Servants have to haul buckets from the well, heat them over a fire and pour them into a wooden tub. By the time you get in, the water's already lukewarm. And it's shared. Your fellow knights might use the same water. You're lowering yourself into a tub that's already got someone else's dirt floating in it. There's no soap that smells nice. It's harsh stuff made from animal fat and ashes. It stings if you've got any cuts or scrapes, which you always do. You scrub quickly and get out. Then you're drying off with a rough linen cloth that's seen better days. You're clean for about 6 hours before the sweat and grime start building up again. Now let's get you on a horse. You'd think this would be the cool part. Knights and horses go together, right? Except getting onto a horse when you're wearing the equivalent of a filing cabinet is genuinely difficult. You can't just swing your leg up and hop on. Your armour doesn't bend that way. You need help. Again. A mounting block is brought over, or a couple of servants literally hoist you up. You're clambering and heaving and trying not to topple sideways. Finally, you're in the saddle. It's not comfortable. It's a wooden frame covered with leather. The stirrups are metal. Everything is hard. There's no cushioning. Your backside is perched on this unforgiving seat, and you're about to spend hours like this. The horse itself is huge. It has to be, to carry you and all your metal. War horses are not gentle creatures. They're temperamental, powerful, and they know they're stronger than you. This one's called Jeffrey, or Thunderstorm, or some other name that sounded impressive at the time. Right now, he's annoyed. Maybe he didn't get enough oats this morning. Maybe a fly bit him. Either way, he's shifting and huffing, and you're trying to stay balanced. Your weight in armor makes you top-heavy. If he decides to sidestep suddenly, you're going over like a sack of hammers. And then there's the smell. Horse sweat is a thick, salty musk that fills your nostrils. The saddle leather adds its own earthy note. Underneath it all is the ever-present hint of manure. Horses drop waste without warning or concern. You're riding along and suddenly there's a series of plops behind you. If you're in a group, the horse in front might do it and you're riding through the aftermath. Fresh droppings have a warm, grassy, pungent kick to them. In summer, they're everywhere, baking in the sun. The flies love it. You don't. Riding for hours is torture. Your thighs start to ache within the first 30 minutes. The saddle is rubbing in places. Your lower back is protesting. The armor is pressing down on your shoulders, and your spine feels compressed. Every time the horse trots, you're bouncing. The metal clanks and rattles. Your teeth clack together. You bite your tongue by accident and spend the next 10 minutes tasting copper. You can't adjust your seating position much. You're locked in. This is your life now. Just you, a grumpy horse, and the slow realization that you need to go to the toilet, but there's nowhere to stop. When you finally do stop, getting off the horse is another ordeal. You're stiff. Your legs have forgotten how to work. You swing one leg over, or try to, and nearly get stuck. You half slide, half fall off the side. Your feet hit the ground, and your knees buckle. Everything hurts. You hobble around like someone 3 times your age. Your inner thighs feel like they've been scrubbed with sandpaper. There's a rash brewing. You can feel it. Hot, itchy, and getting worse with every step. There's no cream, no soothing gel. You just have to live with it and hope it doesn't get infected. Let's talk about training, because even though you're a fully qualified knight now, you still have to practice. Regularly. Swordsmanship, for instance. You're out in the training yard with a heavy sword. It's not a light little thing. It's a big, solid chunk of steel that weighs several pounds. Your arm gets tired just holding it up. Now you're supposed to swing it, again and again. Your instructor, a grizzled older knight who survived more battles than you've had hot dinners, is shouting at you. He's not impressed. Your form is sloppy. You're dropping your elbow. Swing again and again. Your shoulder is burning. Your wrist is aching. Sweat is running down your face, into your eyes, stinging. You blink it away and keep going because stopping means extra drills. Then there's the lance practice. You're back on the horse. The lance is a long wooden pole that's heavier than it looks. You have to hold it steady while the horse gallops. You're aiming for a target, maybe a wooden dummy, maybe a ring hanging from a post. Sounds simple. It's not. The horse is bouncing you around. The lance is wobbling. Your arm is straining to keep it level. You miss the target by a mile. The lance smacks into the side of the post and nearly jolts out of your grip. Your shoulder feels like it's been wrenched out of its socket. You circle around and do it again. And again. By the end of the session, you can barely lift your arm. Shield work is another joy. The shield is wooden, covered with leather, and weighs enough to make your arm tired within minutes. You're holding it up, blocking imaginary strikes. Your instructor is whacking it with his sword. The impact reverberates up your arm, into your shoulder. It's like being hit with a hammer every few seconds. Your forearm is cramping. Your fingers are locked in a claw around the grip. You're gritting your teeth and trying not to drop it. If you do, you'll be doing this drill until sunset. There's also the joy of wrestling practice, because sometimes you'll be fighting without weapons, on the ground, in full armor. You're grappling with another knight. It's like trying to wrestle while wearing a suit made of pots and pans. You can't bend properly. You can't get a good grip because of the gauntlets. You're both clanking and clattering and swearing under your breath. Someone gets you in a headlock. Your helmet is grinding against your skull. You're trying to twist free, but the weight of the armor makes it nearly impossible. You end up on your back like a turtle, arms and legs flailing uselessly. It takes 2 people to haul you upright again. Dignity is not part of this process. Food during training days is somehow even worse. You're burning energy like crazy. You're starving. What you get is more bread, more cheese, and maybe some dried meat that's so tough, it's like chewing leather. Your jaw is tired from training, and now it's tired from eating. The dried meat has a strong, salty, slightly off taste. It's been preserved with salt and time and hope. You gnaw at it and eventually swallow chunks that probably should have been chewed more. Your stomach isn't sure what to do with it. You feel heavy and sluggish. There's no fresh fruit, no vegetables. Anything green is viewed with suspicion. You eat what you're given and hope your guts can handle it. Let's address the casual injuries, because you're getting hurt constantly. Little things that add up. A bruise on your ribs from where the armor pressed during a fall. A scraped knuckle from catching your hand on a buckle. A twisted ankle from stepping badly on uneven ground. A sore neck from the weight of the helmet. A headache that won't go away because you've been squinting through that narrow visor all day. There's no painkiller, no quick relief. You just endure it. Maybe someone gives you a cup of strong ale and tells you to toughen up. That's the extent of sports medicine. Blisters are a constant companion. On your feet from the boots, on your hands from gripping weapons, on your backside from the saddle. They form, they burst, they sting. You've got raw patches of skin that rub against fabric and leather with every movement. There's no soft bandage. Maybe a strip of cloth tied around it if you're lucky. Mostly you just grit your teeth and carry on. Complaining isn't really an option. Everyone else has the same problems. It's just part of the job. Let's talk about the castle you live in. Sounds grand, doesn't it? A proper stone castle. Towers, battlements, the whole thing. Except it's freezing. Stone is beautiful, but it's basically living inside a giant refrigerator. There's no central heating, no radiators, no thermostat. You can nudge up a bit. You've got fireplaces in some rooms, but they don't heat the whole space. You're warm if you stand directly in front of the fire. 2 steps away, and you're back in the cold. The flames crackle and spit. Sometimes the wind blows down the chimney and smoke puffs back into the room. Your eyes water. You're coughing. The smell of wood smoke clings to everything you own. The floors are stone. Cold, hard stone. If you're lucky, there are some rushes scattered on top. These are dried reeds and grasses that are meant to provide a bit of cushioning and absorb spills. Except they don't get changed often enough. Underneath the top layer is a matted, damp, decomposing mess. Crumbs of food, spilled drink, bones from meals, other things we won't detail. It all gets trampled into the rushes and slowly rots. The smell is a background note you get used to. Musty, slightly sour with a hint of decay. When you walk across the floor, your boots sometimes squelch. That's not a puddle of water. The walls are bare stone or maybe hung with tapestries if the castle is wealthy. The tapestries are supposed to keep the warmth in. They don't. They just make the room slightly less echoey. They're heavy wool, often dusty, and they smell like old cloth. If you brush against one, a small cloud of dust puffs out. The designs are faded and the colours are dull. They depict hunting scenes or battles or religious images. You've stared at them so many times you could draw them from memory. They don't make the room feel warmer or more comfortable, just less empty. Your personal chamber is small. A bed, a chest for your belongings, maybe a small table and a stool. That's it. The window is a narrow slit in the wall, designed for defense rather than light or ventilation. There's no glass, just a wooden shutter you can close. If you close it, the room is dark and stuffy. If you leave it open, the wind howls through and the temperature drops even further. Rain sometimes blows in. There's a damp patch on the floor under the window that never quite dries. In winter, frost forms on the inside of the walls. You can see your breath in the air when you wake up. Your nose is cold. Your fingers are stiff. Getting out of bed is an act of willpower. Let's discuss the social side of being a knight. You're expected to attend feasts. These are long, loud, chaotic events in the Great Hall. The tables are set up in rows. Everyone's crammed in, elbow to elbow. The hall is dimly lit by torches and candles. The smoke from the fire and the torches hangs in the air. Your eyes sting. The noise is overwhelming. Dozens of people talking, shouting, laughing, dogs barking. They're under the tables, begging for scraps and fighting over bones. Someone's hound just snatched a piece of meat off the floor and is growling at anyone who gets close. The food at a feast is better than usual, but it's still an experience. There are platters of roasted meat, whole birds, pork, beef. It's been cooked for hours and it's greasy. The fat glistens on the surface. You're eating with your hands and a knife. Forks aren't common. You grab a chunk of meat, tear into it, and grease runs down your fingers. You wipe your hands on the tablecloth or on a piece of bread. Everyone else is doing the same. The tablecloth, which started the evening relatively clean, is now a mess of stains and crumbs. There are dishes you don't recognize. A pie with a thick crust that's been baked until it's nearly hard. You crack it open, and there's a mixture of meat and gravy inside. It's rich and heavy. After a few bites, you're already feeling full, but the meal is just getting started. There are more courses. A fish dish, because it's a Friday or some other day where meat isn't allowed. The fish is whole, head and all, staring at you from the platter. It's been poached in some kind of sauce. The texture is mushy, bones everywhere. You're picking through it carefully, trying not to choke. Then there's the entertainment. A musician with a lute is trying to play over the noise. You can barely hear him. Someone juggles. A storyteller stands up and begins a tale. No one's really listening. The lord of the castle is at the high table looking bored. He's picking at his food and drinking heavily. Everyone's drinking heavily. The ale and wine flow freely. Cups are refilled constantly. People are getting louder, sloppier. Someone tells a joke that's more crude than funny. Everyone laughs anyway. A knight 2 seats down from you has had too much. He's swaying. His face is flushed. He tries to stand and nearly knocks over a platter. He stumbles off to be sick somewhere. You hope it's outside. You're trapped at this feast for hours. Your backside is numb from the wooden bench. Your stomach is uncomfortably full. The hall is too hot now from all the bodies and the fire. You're sweating under your formal clothes, which are heavy and itchy. The tunic you're wearing is wool. Good wool, but still wool. It's scratchy against your skin. Your undergarments are damp with perspiration. You want to leave, but you can't. Not until the Lord dismisses everyone. So you sit. You nod politely. You pretend to be interested in the conversation around you. which has devolved into someone bragging about a hunt. Let's talk about the hunts, since they're a regular part of nightly life. You're up at dawn. The hunting party gathers in the courtyard. Horses are ready. Hounds are baying and straining at their leashes. The noise is incredible. Dozens of dogs, all howling and barking with excitement. The smell of wet dog and horse and morning dew mixes into a brisk, earthy cocktail. You're dressed for riding. Not full armour, thankfully, but thick, practical clothes. You're already cold. The sun isn't up properly yet. Your breath mists in the air. Off you go, into the forest. The dogs are released and they bolt ahead, noses to the ground. You're riding fast, trying to keep up. Branches whip at your face. You're ducking and weaving. The path is rough. Roots, rocks, uneven ground. Your horse stumbles once and you nearly go flying over its head. You grip the reins tighter. Your knuckles are white. Somewhere ahead, the dogs have found the scent. They're baying excitedly. You're galloping now. The forest is a blur. Your heart is pounding. This is meant to be thrilling. Mostly it's terrifying. The hunt goes on for hours. You're cold, then you're hot from the exertion, then you're cold again when you stop. The dogs corner something. A deer, a boar, something. There's a lot of shouting and chaos. The animal is dispatched. You're not involved in that part. Someone more senior gets the honour. You're just there, standing around trying to look interested. The carcass is loaded onto a horse. Everyone's pleased. You head back to the castle. The ride back is slower. You're tired. Your legs ache. Your backside is sore again. The thrill has worn off and now you're just hungry and ready for a meal. Now let's get into what happens when you actually have to fight. Not training. Real fighting. You've been called to join your lord on campaign. This means packing up and travelling. Days, maybe weeks on the road. It's not a nice road trip. There's no stopping at service stations for snacks. You're part of a column of soldiers, horses, carts, all trudging through mud and dust. The pace is slow. The cart ahead of you keeps getting stuck. Everyone has to stop while it's hauled out of a rut. You're sitting on your horse, waiting, baking in the sun or getting soaked by rain. There's no shelter, no shade. You're just enduring. The nights are spent camping. You're sleeping in a tent if you're lucky. It's a simple canvas structure that keeps some of the rain off. Some, not all. Water always finds a way in. There's a steady drip somewhere near your head. The ground is hard and cold. You're lying on it with maybe a thin blanket between you and the earth. Rocks dig into your back. You shift position constantly, trying to find a comfortable spot. It doesn't exist. You doze fitfully. Every sound wakes you. Horses shifting, men coughing, sentries calling out, the wind rattling the tent. Food on campaign is grim. Supplies run low quickly. You're eating hard biscuits that are more like rocks. You have to soak them in water or ale to soften them enough to chew. Even then, they're dense and tasteless. There's dried meat again. Salted fish. Everything is preserved and none of it is pleasant. Fresh food is a distant memory. You're hungry most of the time. Not starving, but never quite full. Your stomach grumbles. You fantasize about the stew back at the castle, which you previously thought was barely edible. Now it seems like a feast. Eventually you reach the place where the fighting will happen. Maybe it's a siege. You're attacking a castle or a town. This means sitting outside the walls for weeks, possibly months, waiting for the people inside to give up. It's boring. Incredibly boring. You're camped in a field that's turned into a mud pit. Thousands of men and horses in one place create a lot of waste. The smell is unbelievable. Latrines are dug at the edge of camp. They're pits in the ground. The stench carries on the wind. When the breeze shifts, it wafts over the entire camp. You're trying to eat your terrible biscuit and the smell hits you and your appetite vanishes. Boredom leads to other problems. Men gamble, they argue, fights break out. Someone cheated at dice. Someone insulted someone else's honor. Suddenly there's a scuffle. It's broken up quickly, but the tension remains. Everyone's on edge. You're all dirty, tired, underfed, and frustrated. Tempers are short. You avoid conversations that might turn into arguments. You keep your head down and try to pass the time. Some men carve wood, some mend equipment. You're polishing your armor for the 100th time, not because it needs it, just because there's nothing else to do. When the fighting finally starts, it's chaos. Pure chaos. There's no clear view of the battlefield. You're in the middle of a mass of men and metal and noise. Someone's shouting orders, but you can't hear them properly. Your helmet muffles everything. You're trying to stay in formation, but the ground is uneven and people are pushing from behind. You stumble forward. Your shield is up. Your sword is drawn. Your heart is hammering in your chest so hard you think it might burst out. Someone swings a weapon at you. You barely get your shield up in time. The impact sends a shock up your arm. Your ears are ringing. There's no time to think. You're just reacting. Swing, block, step. Don't trip, don't fall. Falling is death. You're surrounded by legs and hooves and metal. If you go down, you'll be trampled. You see a knight ahead of you go down. He's trying to get up. Someone steps on him. He's lost. You keep moving, keep swinging. Your arm is already tired. Your breath is ragged. The inside of your helmet is wet with sweat and condensation. It's fogging up. You can barely see. The noise is unbelievable. Metal on metal. Men yelling. Horses screaming. The sound drills into your skull. You're disoriented. Which way is forward? Where's your unit? You're just trying to survive. Someone crashes into you from the side. You stagger but stay upright. You swing your sword and feel it connect with something. You don't know what. You don't look. You keep moving. Eventually, someone signals a retreat or an advance or something. You're pulled back. The immediate fighting stops. You're standing there gasping for breath. Your entire body is shaking. Adrenaline is pouring through you. You're alive. You check yourself. No serious injuries. A few dents in the armor. A bruise forming on your shoulder where you took a hit. Your hands are trembling so much you can barely sheathe your sword. Someone hands you a water skin. You pull off your helmet and drink desperately. The water is warm and stale, and it's the best thing you've ever tasted. You look around. The field is a mess. Equipment everywhere. Wounded men being dragged away. You don't look too closely. You can't. You're trying to process what just happened. Minutes ago, you were in the thick of it. Now, there's an eerie quiet, broken only by distant groans and the sound of horses. Your ears are still ringing. Everything feels unreal. You sit down heavily. Your legs gave out without asking permission. You're on the ground, in the mud, and you don't care. You just need a moment. Later, back at camp, you're trying to clean your equipment. The armor is scuffed and dented. There's mud caked on everything. You're scrubbing at it with a rag and some water. Your hands are sore. There's a blister on your palm from gripping the sword. It's burst and it stings. You wrap a cloth around it and keep working. The armor needs to be maintained. Rust is a constant enemy. You're oiling joints, checking straps, hammering out dents as best you can. It takes hours. You're exhausted, but it has to be done. Sleep that night is difficult. Every time you close your eyes, you're back in the fight. The noise, the fear. You jerk awake, heart racing. It takes a moment to remember where you are, the tent, the campaign. You're safe for now. You lie back down and stare at the canvas above you. Eventually exhaustion wins and you drift off into a restless sleep filled with clanging metal and shouts. The campaign drags on. Days blur together. More waiting, another skirmish, more boredom, more terrible food. You're losing weight. Your clothes hang looser. There's no mirror, but you know you look rough. Your face is gaunt. There are dark circles under your eyes. Your skin is dry and weathered from constant exposure to sun and wind. You've got a rash on your neck from the armor rubbing. It's red and angry and itchy. You try not to scratch it, but you do anyway, making it worse. Finally, the siege ends. Either the enemy surrenders or your side gives up or some agreement is reached. You're marching back. The journey home feels longer than the journey out. You're exhausted in a bone-deep way. Every part of you hurts. You're dreaming of your uncomfortable bed back at the castle. That lumpy, flea-ridden straw mattress sounds like paradise right now. You fantasize about a bath, even a cold one, just to wash off the layers of grime. Let's talk about the politics of being a knight, because it's not just fighting and feasting. You're part of a social hierarchy and you need to navigate it carefully. Your lord is at the top. Everything you do is in service to him. You owe him loyalty, military service, and attendance at his court. In return, he's supposed to protect you, give you land or a stipend, and generally keep you in his favor. Except his favor is fickle. You need to stay on his good side constantly. This means showing up when summoned, agreeing with him even when he's wrong, and laughing at his jokes even when they're not funny. Court is where a lot of this happens. You're standing around in the great hall with dozens of other knights and nobles. Everyone's dressed in their best clothes, which are still itchy and uncomfortable. The lord sits in a big chair at the front. He's listening to petitions, making judgments, discussing matters of state. You're expected to be there, looking attentive. You can't yawn, even though you're bored out of your mind. You can't slouch. You stand straight, hands clasped, and try to look interested as two farmers argue about a boundary dispute that's been going on for 3 generations. Hours pass. Your feet hurt. Your back aches. Someone drones on about taxes. The Lord makes a decision. Everyone nods like it's the wisest thing ever said. You nod too. Finally, it's over. You're dismissed. You shuffle out with everyone else, making small talk you don't care about. Sir whoever asks how your lands are doing. You give a vague positive answer. You ask about his family. He tells you more than you wanted to know. You smile and nod. This is networking medieval style. It's just as tedious as any modern office politics. Then there are the rivalries, because knights are competitive and petty. Someone has a nicer horse than you. Someone got a better seat at the last feast. Someone was praised by the Lord and you weren't. These things fester. You're supposed to be brothers in arms, but there's a lot of jealousy and sniping. Sir Geoffrey made a snide comment about your performance in the last tournament. You smile tightly and file it away for later. Maybe you'll get a chance to knock him off his horse next time. Maybe you'll just spread a rumour that his armour is old-fashioned. It's petty, but it's what passes for entertainment. Tournaments, speaking of which, are a whole other nightmare. They're supposed to be glorious displays of knightly skill. Really, they're dangerous, expensive, and stressful. You're expected to participate because it's good for your reputation. But it costs a fortune. You need your best armour, polished to a shine. Your horse needs to be in top condition. You need banners and a decent pavilion, and probably a couple of servants to help you prepare. It all adds up. You're spending money you don't really have to impress people you don't really like. The day of the tournament arrives. The field is set up with lists, the long barriers that separate the jousting lanes. There are stands for spectators, colourful banners everywhere. It looks festive. It feels like a nightmare. You're in your pavilion, getting ready. The armor goes on. The process is just as tedious as always. Your stomach is in knots. You're nervous. This isn't like a real battle where everything is chaos. This is public. Everyone is watching. If you mess up, everyone will see. If you get knocked off your horse, you'll be humiliated. If you do well, you'll gain respect. The stakes feel enormous. Your name is called. You mount your horse. The crowd is cheering. You can't really hear individuals, just a general roar. You ride out into the lists. Your opponent is at the other end. You don't know him well. He's from another region. His armor is shiny. His horse looks fast. You lower your visor. The world narrows to a slit. Your squire, a grown man who's been with you for years, hands you the lance. It's heavy. You couch it under your arm, trying to keep it steady. Your horse is shifting beneath you. Easy, boy. Not yet. The signal is given. You dig your heels in. The horse surges forward. The world becomes a blur of motion. The lance is wobbling. You're trying to aim it at your opponent's shield. He's thundering towards you. The distance closes impossibly fast. You brace. Impact. The lance hits his shield, or maybe his shoulder. There's a massive jolt that nearly unseats you. Your lance shatters. Splinters fly. You're rocking back in the saddle, but you stay on. You pull the horse to a stop and circle around. Your opponent is still mounted too. Round 1 to no one. You do it again and again. Your shoulder is screaming. Each impact is like being hit by a car. The crowd is cheering or booing. You can't tell which. You're just focused on staying on the horse. Third pass. You aim perfectly. Your lance strikes true. Your opponent rocks back, and tips off the back of his horse. He hits the ground with a massive crash. The crowd roars. You've won! You're breathing hard. You lift your visor. The rush of cooler air on your face is incredible. You ride a circuit, acknowledging the cheers. You feel triumphant for about 5 minutes. Then you dismount and realize your entire body is one giant bruise. The rest of the tournament is a blur. There are melees, group combats. You're in the thick of it again, swinging and blocking and trying not to get clobbered. Someone's weapon catches you on the side of the helmet. Your vision swims. You stagger but stay up. The fight ends. You're not sure who won. You're just relieved it's over. You retreat to your pavilion. Your servants help you out of the armor. You're drenched in sweat. Your underclothes are soaked. You peel them off and they slap wetly onto the ground. Someone hands you water. You drink it all. Then you sit down and try not to pass out. The feast that night is mandatory. You have to attend. You're moving like an old man. Every muscle is stiff. There are bruises blooming in spectacular colours all over your body. Your ribs ache. Your shoulder might be dislocated slightly. You're not sure. It hurts to lift your arm. But you're at the feast, smiling, accepting congratulations for your performance. You drink more than you should because it's the only thing that dulls the pain. You're half drunk and fully exhausted by the time you're allowed to leave. Let's talk about money, because knights are often broke. You'd think a knight would be wealthy. Some are, most aren't. Maintaining your equipment is expensive. Armor needs repairs. Weapons need replacing. Horses are costly to feed and care for. You've got servants to pay. You've got dues to your lord. You've got the cost of looking respectable, which means good clothes and decent gear. It all drains your funds. You're living beyond your means half the time, hoping that your lord will give you a bonus or a grant of land or something. Sometimes you get a chance to earn extra. Maybe there's a ransom. You've captured an enemy knight in battle. He's worth money. His family will pay to get him back. You negotiate the terms. It's awkward. You're holding this man prisoner, treating him reasonably well because that's the code, but also making sure he knows you expect payment. The money eventually comes through. It helps, for a while. Then it's gone again, spent on repairs and debts. You might have a small estate, a manor, some farmland, peasants who work it. The estate is supposed to generate income, except the harvest was bad last year. The peasants are grumbling about the taxes you're collecting. The roof of the manor house needs repairs. There's always something. You visit occasionally to check on things. The steward, another grown adult in your employment, gives you a report. It's not great. You nod and pretend you understand estate management. Really, you're a soldier, not a farmer. You have no idea how to fix half these problems. You just hope it sorts itself out. Let's discuss illness, because you're going to get sick. There's no avoiding it. Sanitation is poor. Medicine is rudimentary. Every winter brings a wave of coughs and fevers. You're in the Great Hall and someone 3 seats down is hacking their lungs out. No one covers their mouth. Germs spray across the table. 2 days later, you've got a scratchy throat. By the next morning, you're fully ill. Your head is pounding. Your nose is streaming. You're coughing so hard your ribs hurt. There's no staying in bed to recover. You're a knight. You have duties. You drag yourself out of bed and try to function. The treatment for illness is a combination of hope and bizarre remedies. Someone suggests a poultice. It's a paste made from herbs mixed with something unpleasant and slapped onto your chest. It's cold and slimy and smells like a swamp. You're told to leave it on for hours. It doesn't help. Another person recommends bloodletting. Absolutely not. You've heard about that. They cut you open and let some of your fluids drain out, supposedly to balance your humours. It sounds like a terrible idea. You decline politely. Instead, you drink a foul-tasting herbal brew that someone swears will cure you. It tastes like dirt and bitterness. You choke it down. It makes you feel worse, if anything. Eventually, your body fights off the illness on its own. It takes a week or two. You're weak and shaky afterwards. You've lost more weight. Your clothes hang off you like a scarecrow. You're coughing for weeks after, a lingering rattle in your chest. Everyone else is dealing with the same thing. The castle sounds like a choir of coughs and sniffles. It's just part of life. You endure it and move on. Then there are the stomach complaints. Something you ate didn't agree with you. Maybe the meat was slightly off. Maybe the water was bad. Whatever the cause, you're now intimately familiar with the privy. You're running there multiple times a day. Your stomach cramps violently. You're sweating and miserable. There's no medication that really helps. Someone gives you charcoal to chew. It's gritty and tasteless. You're told it absorbs the bad humours. You're skeptical but desperate, so you try it. It doesn't do much. You just have to ride it out. Days of misery, sipping weak broth and hoping you don't have to sprint for the privy during an important meeting. Infections are another danger. You've got a cut on your hand from a sparring accident. It seemed minor at the time. Now it's red and hot to the touch. The skin around it is swollen. It's starting to throb with a painful, pulsing heat. This is bad. Infections can turn serious fast. Someone cleans it with wine, which stings like fire. You're gritting your teeth and trying not to swear. They wrap it in a clean cloth. You're told to keep it clean and pray it doesn't get worse. For the next few days, you're checking it obsessively. Is it more red? Is the swelling spreading? Fortunately, this time, it starts to improve. The redness fades. The pain eases. You got lucky. Not everyone does. Dental problems are a constant threat. One of your teeth has been aching on and off for months. It's getting worse. The pain is sharp and constant. Eating on that side is impossible. Hot and cold make it flare up. You're trying to ignore it, but it's becoming unbearable. Finally, you seek help. The local barber also does tooth extractions. He's not a trained dentist. He's a man with pliers and confidence. You sit down. He examines the tooth, prodding it with a metal tool. You wince. He nods. It has to come out. There's no anesthetic, nothing to numb the pain. Someone holds you down. You're gripping the arms of the chair. The barber gets his pliers around the tooth and pulls. The pain is blinding. You're making sounds you didn't know you could make. He's pulling and twisting. There's a horrible cracking sensation. Then suddenly it's out. He holds up the tooth triumphantly. It's got a rotten bit at the root. No wonder it hurt. Your mouth is full of a strong metallic taste. You spit into a bowl. There's a lot of red. You're shaking. He packs the socket with cloth and tells you not to eat solid food for a few days. You nod weakly. The pain is already receding, replaced by a dull, throbbing ache. It's an improvement, bizarrely. Let's talk about the weather, because you're at its mercy. There's no climate control, no weatherproof gear that actually works. In winter, it's bitterly cold. The castle is freezing. Your chamber feels like an icebox. You're piling on every blanket and piece of clothing you own. You sleep in layers. You're still cold. Your breath mists in the air. Frost forms on the inside of the window shutters. In the morning, there's ice in the washing basin. You crack the surface and splash freezing water on your face. It's a shock that wakes you up instantly. Going outside in winter is miserable. The wind cuts through your clothes. Your fingers go numb within minutes. You're trying to do anything requiring dexterity, and it's nearly impossible. Your nose is running constantly. You're sniffing and wiping it on your sleeve because there's nothing else. The ground is frozen hard or covered in snow. Walking is treacherous. Your horse hates it as much as you do. He's slipping and sliding, snorting clouds of steam. You're just trying to get through the day without frostbite. Summer brings different problems. It's hot, unbearably hot. The sun beats down and there's no air conditioning, no fan, no ice. You're sweating constantly, your clothes are damp. The wool tunic is stifling. You're desperate to take it off, but that's not proper. You're stuck in it, slowly roasting. Inside the castle, it's stifling. The stone holds the heat. Your chamber is like an oven. You can't sleep. You're lying on top of the blankets, wearing as little as decency allows, and you're still too hot. The air is thick and still. Flies buzz lazily around the room. You swat at them half-heartedly. When it rains, it's a deluge. Medieval rain seems heavier somehow. Maybe it's just that there's no proper shelter. You're caught out on the road, and the rain starts. Within minutes, you're soaked. The water runs off your cloak, but it seeps through everywhere else. Your tunic is wet. Your boots are squelching. Water is running down your neck. It's cold and unpleasant. You're shivering even though it's not winter. The road turns to thick, clinging mud. Your horse struggles. You're both miserable. When you finally reach shelter, you're dripping puddles everywhere. There's no quick way to dry off. You stand near a fire, steam rising from your clothes, and hope you don't catch a chill. Let's discuss boredom, because there's a lot of it. When you're not training or fighting or attending court, you're just waiting. There's no entertainment as you'd recognize it. No screens, no books unless you're very educated and wealthy. And even then, books are rare and precious. Most knights can't read well. You might know enough to read a letter or a simple document, but sitting down with a book for pleasure, that's not really a thing. So you're left with very little to do. You talk to the other knights. The same conversations over and over. Someone's recounting a hunt from 5 years ago. You've heard this story a dozen times. You nod and pretend it's new. Someone else is complaining about their lord. You make sympathetic noises. Another is bragging about a battle. The details get more exaggerated each time he tells it. You're only half listening. Your mind is wandering. You're thinking about nothing in particular, just passing time. Some men gamble, dice mostly. You're not great at it, but it's something to do. You're sitting in a circle with a few others, rolling dice on the floor. Small coins are wagered. You win some, lose some. It's not exciting, but it's a distraction. The games drag on. Hours pass. You're not sure if you've gained or lost overall. It doesn't really matter. It filled the time. Let's talk about the church, because it's everywhere in your life. Religion is woven into every aspect of daily existence. You're expected to attend Mass regularly. This means getting up early and heading to the chapel or the local church. The service is long. The priest drones on in Latin, which you don't really understand. You're standing or kneeling on a cold stone floor. Your knees ache. The incense is thick and cloying. It makes your eyes water. You're trying to look pious, but mostly you're uncomfortable and waiting for it to be over. There are prayers before meals, prayers before bed, feast days where you're expected to fast beforehand, which means you're even hungrier than usual. Holy days where no work is supposed to be done, which sounds nice until you realise it just means more sitting around with nothing to do. The church has rules about everything. What you can eat on which days. Fish on Fridays. No meat during Lent. You're choking down yet another fish dish, picking out bones and wondering why divine law is so concerned with your diet. Confession is required periodically. You're kneeling in a dim corner of the chapel, confessing your sins to a priest. What sins? You're a knight. You've killed people in battle. That's your job. The priest assures you that killing in a just war is not a sin. What about losing your temper and snapping at a servant? What about lustful thoughts? What about the time you stole an extra piece of bread from the kitchen because you were starving? You're dredging up minor transgressions and presenting them solemnly. The priest gives you penance. Say a dozen prayers. You nod, say your prayers dutifully, and leave feeling no different than when you entered. The church also takes your money. Tithes are expected. A portion of your income, which you barely have, goes to the church. It's not optional. It's a duty. You hand over coins you can't really spare and try not to resent it. The local priest lives better than you do. His house is warmer. His meals are regular. He's not risking his life in battle. But you can't say any of that out loud. Criticizing the church is dangerous. So you smile and pay and keep your thoughts to yourself. Pilgrimage is something knights are sometimes expected to do, maybe as penance for some serious sin, maybe to gain spiritual merit, maybe because your lord decided everyone's going. You're travelling to a holy site, which could be weeks or months away. The journey is long and uncomfortable. You're on the road again, sleeping rough, eating poorly. The destination is a cathedral or a shrine. You're shuffling forward in a crowd of other pilgrims. Everyone's trying to touch the holy relic or pray at the altar. It's crowded and smells of too many unwashed bodies in one place. You say your prayers, make your offerings, and then face the long journey back. Was it spiritually fulfilling? Hard to say. Mostly it was exhausting. Now let's discuss your relationship with the common folk, because there's a big gap between you and them. You're a knight, part of the nobility, even if you're on the lower end of it. The peasants work the land. They're the ones farming, raising animals, doing the hard manual labour that keeps the whole system running. You rely on them, but you're also separate from them. There's a social divide that's rigidly maintained. When you ride through a village, people bow or move out of the way. They're respectful, sometimes fearful. You're a figure of authority. You can command them, tax them, judge disputes. It's a lot of power. Some knights abuse it. They're harsh and unfair. You'd like to think you're better than that. You try to be just, but the system itself is unequal. The peasants have little and you have more. Even when you feel broke, you're still better off than they are. They're living in tiny cottages with dirt floors. They're wearing rough, patched clothing. Their food is even worse than yours. Coarse bread, thin pottage, whatever vegetables they can grow. You interact with them mainly when collecting rents or taxes. It's awkward. They're handing over a portion of their harvest or a few coins. You can see the resentment in their eyes, carefully hidden. They can't afford this, but they have to pay. You take it because that's how the system works. It's how you get paid. But it doesn't feel good. You avoid thinking about it too much. It's easier that way. Sometimes there's trouble, a dispute between peasants that needs settling. You're the local authority, so you hear the case. Two men arguing over a pig. One says it's his, the other disagrees. They're both talking at once, gesticulating wildly. You're trying to get the facts. It's tedious. You make a judgment. One of them is unhappy. They mutter something under their breath. You let it slide. It's not worth the trouble. You're just glad to have it done with. Occasionally there's a crime, theft, assault, something that requires punishment. You're expected to dispense justice. The accused is brought before you. They're terrified. You're the one with the power to punish. The evidence is shaky at best. There are no proper investigations. You're making a decision based on conflicting testimony and your gut feeling. You pronounce a sentence, a fine, time in the stocks, something harsher if it's serious. You're uncomfortable with the whole process, but it's your duty. Justice is rough and imperfect. You do your best and hope you got it right. Let's talk about aging, because it's happening faster than you'd like. You're not old, but you feel older than you are. The lifestyle is brutal. The constant physical strain, the injuries, the poor diet, the lack of proper rest. It all adds up. You're in your 30s, and your body is already protesting. Your knees hurt in the morning. There's a persistent ache in your lower back. Your shoulder, the one you injured in a tournament years ago, throbs when the weather changes. You're stiff. You move more carefully. Getting on a horse is harder than it used to be. Your hair is starting to thin. There are grey strands. Your face is lined and weathered. You look older than your years. Lots of knights do. It's a hard life. Some don't make it to old age at all. Battle, illness, accidents. There are many ways to die young. You're aware of your mortality in a way that modern people often aren't. Life is fragile. You've seen men you knew die suddenly. A training accident, an infection that turned bad, a battle that went wrong. It's a sobering reality. Retirement isn't really a concept. You're a knight until you're not. If you're lucky, you get too old to fight and you settle down on your estate, managing it in your remaining years. If you're unlucky, you die on a battlefield or from some illness. There's no pension, no social security. You're reliant on your lord's goodwill or your family's support. If you've alienated everyone or been unlucky, old age could be grim. You're hoping you've built enough goodwill to avoid that fate. You think about the future sometimes. What will happen when you can't fight anymore? Will your lord still value you? Will your estate support you? Will your family take care of you? There are no guarantees. You're trying to stay useful, stay relevant. But you're also aware that younger nights are coming up. They're faster, stronger, less worn down. You're already becoming yesterday's news. It's an uncomfortable feeling. Let's discuss the law, because it affects you more than you'd think. There are laws governing what nights can and can't do. You're subject to your Lord's authority. He can summon you, command you, judge you. If you displease him, there are consequences. Loss of favour, loss of land, imprisonment, execution, if the offence is serious enough. You're always aware of this. It shapes your behaviour. You're careful not to overstep. You're deferential, even when you disagree. Let's talk about what happens when you're injured badly. Not a minor scrape, but something serious. A sword cut that's deep. A fall from a horse that breaks bones. An injury sustained in battle that leaves you incapacitated. The treatment options are limited, and none of them are pleasant. If you're lucky, there's a physician around. He's somewhat educated, trained in the medical knowledge of the time, which is a mix of accurate observation and complete nonsense. The physician examines your wound. If it's a cut, he'll try to clean it. Not with antiseptic, because that doesn't exist. Maybe with wine or vinegar, which stings horribly. You're biting down on a leather strap to avoid screaming. If the wound is deep, he might stitch it. The needle and thread are not sterile. The stitching is rough and painful. You're gritting your teeth through the whole process. Once it's stitched, it's bandaged with whatever clean cloth is available. You're told to rest and keep it clean. That's the extent of treatment. Broken bones are set by hand. The physician or a bone setter feels the break, then pulls and twists until the bones are roughly aligned. There's no X-ray to check if it's right. It's done by feel and experience. The pain is indescribable. You're sweating and shaking and possibly passing out. Once the bone is set, it's splintered with wooden slats and bound tightly. You're immobilized for weeks. The bone either heals straight or it doesn't. Many nights end up with limbs that healed crooked, leaving them with a limp or reduced mobility. That's just how it is. Internal injuries are a death sentence usually. If you've been hit hard in the chest or abdomen and something inside is damaged, there's nothing anyone can do. You're in agony. The physician might give you something for the pain. Poppy extract if it's available. It dulls the pain a bit and makes you drowsy. But it doesn't fix the underlying problem. You're either going to recover on your own or you're not. People sit with you. Prayers are said. You're drifting in and out of consciousness. If you're lucky, you pull through. If not, well, that's the end. Amputations happen. If a limb is too badly damaged or infected, it's cut off. This is a last resort. The process is brutal. You're held down by multiple strong men. The physician uses a saw to cut through the bone. There's no anesthetic beyond strong alcohol, and perhaps something to bite on. The pain is beyond anything you can imagine. You're screaming until your voice gives out. Once the limb is removed, the stump is cauterized with a hot iron to stop the flow of fluids. The smell of burning flesh fills the room. If you survive the shock and the procedure doesn't lead to infection, you'll live. But your life as a knight is effectively over. You can't fight with one arm or one leg. You're retired, whether you want to be or not. Let's discuss the psychological toll. No one talks about it, but it's there. You've been in battles. You've seen horrific things. Friends and comrades struck down. Injuries that are distressing to witness. The chaos and terror of combat. It doesn't just go away when the fighting stops. You have nightmares. You wake up in the middle of the night, heart pounding, reliving a moment from a battle. The crash of metal, the sight of someone falling. You're drenched in sweat, It takes a while to calm down and convince yourself you're safe. There's no concept of trauma therapy, no counselling. You're expected to be tough, to endure. Showing fear or distress is seen as weakness, so you bottle it up. You don't talk about the nightmares or the moments of panic when a loud noise makes you jump. You just carry on. Drinking helps temporarily. A lot of nights drink heavily. It numbs the feelings. It makes sleep come easier, even if it's not restful. But it's not a solution. It's just a way to cope, poorly. You're also lonely in a way. You're surrounded by people, but you don't really connect with them deeply. Friendships are functional. You fight alongside these men. You trust them with your life in battle, but you don't share your fears or your doubts. Vulnerability isn't part of the culture. You're all maintaining a facade of toughness. It's isolating. You're dealing with everything on your own, inside your own head, and it's exhausting. Let's talk about religion's role in coping. The church offers explanations for suffering. It's God's will. It's a test of faith. Suffering in this life leads to reward in the next. You're not sure how much you believe that, but it's the framework you have. You pray. You attend services. You go through the motions. Sometimes it brings a bit of comfort. The rituals are familiar. The prayers are soothing in their repetition. Other times it feels hollow. You're saying words that don't seem to mean anything, but it's what's available, so you keep doing it. There are saints you're supposed to pray to for specific things. Saint Christopher for safe travel. Saint Sebastian for protection from plague. You're hedging your bets, praying to whoever might help. It's a mix of genuine faith and superstition. You're not sure what you actually believe. You're just trying to get through each day. Let's discuss the few pleasures you have, because it's not all misery. There are moments of genuine enjoyment. A good meal when it happens. Roasted meat that's actually tender. Fresh bread that's still warm. A cup of wine that's decent. These are rare treats, but when they happen, you savor them. You're eating slowly, appreciating every bite. It's a bright spot in an otherwise rough existence. Camaraderie can be rewarding. After a successful campaign or a won tournament, there's a sense of shared triumph. You're celebrating with your fellow knights. Everyone's in good spirits. The ale is flowing. Stories are being told, embellished for effect. Laughter fills the hall. For a few hours, the hardships fade. You're just a group of men enjoying each other's company. It doesn't last, but it's nice while it does. There's satisfaction in a job well done. You've trained hard and performed well in a tournament. You've defended your lord's honour. You've completed a difficult journey without mishap. These accomplishments matter. They give you a sense of purpose. You're not just enduring, you're achieving something. It's a feeling that carries you through the harder times. Sometimes the landscape is beautiful. You're riding through a forest in autumn, and the leaves are brilliant colours. The air is crisp and clear. For a moment, you're not thinking about discomfort or duty. You're just taking in the view. Or it's a clear night and you're looking up at the stars. They're brighter than anything you've seen. No light pollution to dim them. It's awe-inspiring. These moments are fleeting, but they remind you that there's more to life than just survival. Music and stories provide entertainment. A skilled musician playing in the hall can lift everyone's spirits. The melodies are simple but pleasant. You're tapping your foot along with the rhythm. A storyteller recounting an epic tale holds everyone's attention. You're caught up in the narrative, imagining the heroes and their adventures. It's a form of escapism. For a little while, you're not a tired, aching knight. You're part of a grander story. Let's talk about the end of your career. Assuming you survive long enough, There comes a point where you can't fight anymore. Your body has given all it can. You're too old, too injured, too worn out. You're retired, more or less. You're living on your estate if you have one. Your days are quieter. No more training, no more campaigns, no more tournaments. It's a relief, in a way. The constant physical strain is over, but it's also an adjustment. You've been a knight your whole adult life. That identity is core to who you are. Without it, who are you? Let's talk about your armor in more detail, because living with it is worse than you'd think. Everyone imagines shiny plate mail and heroic silhouettes. The reality is, you're wearing a collection of metal pieces that hate you personally. Each section has its own special way of making your life difficult. The gauntlets turn your hands into useless clubs. You can't pick up anything smaller than an apple. Forget about undoing a buckle or picking up a coin you've dropped. You're fumbling and cursing under your breath while everyone watches. The coins scatter further. You give up and leave them. The sabatons, the foot coverings, are like wearing metal boxes on your feet. Your toes are cramped. There's no room to wiggle them. After an hour of wear, they're going numb. You're stomping around trying to get feeling back. The metal edges dig into your ankles with every step. By the end of the day, you've got red marks that'll turn into bruises. Your feet are swollen. Getting the sabatons off requires help and a lot of pulling. When they finally come free, your feet throb with renewed sensation. It's not pleasant. It's like the worst pins and needles you've ever experienced, multiplied by 10. The gorget, the neck protection, is a special kind of torture. It's a metal collar that stops your head from moving freely. You can't look down properly. You can't turn your head to the side without rotating your entire upper body. It presses against your collarbones and the base of your skull. After wearing it for hours, you've got a pressure headache that pounds behind your eyes. Your neck muscles are constantly tense, trying to support the weight. When you finally remove it at the end of the day, your neck cracks and pops as you roll it. The relief lasts about 30 seconds before the ache sets in properly. Let's discuss the maintenance of all this equipment, because it never ends. Metal rusts, leather dries out and cracks, straps break. You're constantly repairing something. You've got a collection of tools and materials. Oil for the metal, grease for the joints, leather strips for replacements. You're sitting in your chamber, working on a pauldron that started to squeak. The sound it makes when you move your shoulder is embarrassing. Everyone can hear you coming. You're taking it apart, cleaning out the joint, applying fresh grease. Your hands are black with the stuff. It's under your fingernails. It's got a thick, rancid smell that clings to your skin. Polishing the armor is a task that takes hours. You can't just wipe it down. You're scrubbing at each piece with abrasive powder and a cloth. Your arm is aching from the circular motions. The powder gets everywhere. You're breathing it in. You're coughing. Your eyes are watering. The metal slowly starts to shine, but tomorrow it'll be dull again. Fingerprints show up immediately. Moisture in the air starts the tarnishing process. You're fighting a losing battle, but a knight with dull armor is a disgrace. So you keep polishing, again and again, forever. Storage is another issue. You can't just throw your armor in a corner. It needs to be stored properly or it'll deteriorate. You've got a wooden stand that holds the main pieces, but there are dozens of smaller components. Buckles, straps, pins, washers. You're trying to keep track of them all. You've got a chest with compartments. Half the time you can't find the piece you need. You're rummaging through, tossing aside other bits. Where's the pin for the left vambrace? It was here yesterday. You're getting frustrated. Eventually you find it, wedged in a corner. You make a mental note to organize the chest properly. You never do. Let's talk about your weapons because they're just as demanding. Swords need sharpening regularly. You've got a whetstone. You're sitting there, running the blade along it at the correct angle. The rasping sound fills the room. Sparks occasionally fly off. Your technique isn't perfect. The edge is somewhat sharp, but not as good as a professional armourer could do. Good enough for your purposes. The sword is heavy. Holding it at the right angle for the sharpening is tiring. Your wrist complains. You're only halfway down the blade. You keep going because a dull sword in battle is worse than no sword at all. The crossguard has a dent in it from where you blocked a strike in training. The dent catches on things. It snagged the fabric of your tunic yesterday. You're trying to file it smooth. The metal is stubborn. You're sweating from the effort. File, check, file more. It's slightly better. Not perfect, but better. You're running your thumb along the edge to check. Bad idea. The sharp bit catches your thumb. There's a thin line of red. You stick your thumb in your mouth and taste copper. You're more careful after that. The lance is stored horizontally on brackets on the wall. It's long and unwieldy. The wood needs checking for cracks and splinters. You're running your hands along its length, feeling for problems. There's a rough patch. You're sanding it down. The wood dust makes you sneeze. The tip, the metal point, is secured with bindings. They're fraying. You're unwrapping them, replacing them with fresh leather cord. It's fiddly work. The cord keeps slipping. You're redoing it 3 times before it holds properly. Your fingers are sore from pulling the cord tight. Let's discuss horses in more detail, because your relationship with them is complicated. You're dependent on these animals. Without a horse, you're not really a knight. You're just a man in expensive metal clothing. So you need to keep your horse healthy and in good condition. This means daily care. The horse needs feeding, not just throwing hay at it. Quality oats, enough to keep it strong. That costs money. The stable hands do most of the work, but you're supposed to check on your mount regularly. Show that you care. You're in the stables. The smell is overwhelming. Horse manure, old straw, leather, and the musky scent of the animals themselves. It's a thick, warm fug that hits you the moment you enter. Your horse is in his stall. He turns his head to look at you. His eyes are large and dark. He's either pleased to see you or hoping you brought food. Probably the latter. You're checking him over, running your hands down his legs, feeling for heat or swelling that might indicate injury. He shifts his weight, nearly stepping on your foot. You dodge just in time. He's not trying to hurt you. He's just big and not always aware of where you are. His hooves need regular attention. The farrier comes every few weeks to trim them and replace shoes. You're there watching. The farrier is a stocky man with arms like tree trunks. He's got the horse's hoof between his knees, trimming away the excess growth with a large knife. The horse is mostly cooperative. Mostly. He pulls his leg away once and the farrier swears. You're holding the horse's head, trying to keep him calm. The farrier gets back to work. The smell of burning hoof fills the air as he fits the hot shoe. It's acrid and unpleasant. The horse doesn't like it either. He's tossing his head. You're murmuring soothing nonsense, hoping he settles. Grooming is a regular task. You're supposed to brush the horse to keep his coat healthy and check for injuries or parasites. You've got a stiff brush. You're working it through his coat in long strokes. Dust and loose hair fly up. You're sneezing. The horse is enjoying it. He's leaning into the brush. You're putting your weight behind it. It's actually quite a workout. Your shoulder's burning after doing one side. You've still got the other side, his mane and his tail to go. The tail is the worst. It's thick and gets tangled. You're picking through it with your fingers, pulling out bits of straw and who knows what else. It takes forever. Let's talk about what you eat in more detail, because the monotony is crushing. Breakfast, as mentioned, is bread and maybe cheese. But let's be specific. The bread is made from rye or barley, sometimes wheat if supplies are good. It's dense. A single slice is heavy enough to use as a weapon. You're tearing off chunks and chewing thoroughly because if you try to swallow too soon, you'll choke. Your jaw muscles are working overtime. The bread has a sour, yeasty taste. It's not unpleasant exactly, just very plain. There's no butter to spread on it, no jam, just bread. You're washing it down with ale to soften it enough to swallow. The cheese is hard and aged. It's been sitting in storage for months. The outside has a waxy rind that you're supposed to cut off, but sometimes you just eat it because you're hungry. The cheese itself is sharp and salty. It's got a crumbly texture that sticks to your teeth. You're picking bits out with your tongue for the next hour. If you're lucky, there might be an onion or an apple. The onion is strong and makes your eyes water when you bite into it raw. The apple is small, hard, and a bit mealy. Not the crisp, sweet apples you might imagine. Medieval fruit is tough and sour. You eat it anyway because it's something different. Dinner is stew, always stew, but the quality varies wildly. On a good day, there's actual meat you can identify. A chunk of pork or mutton. It's fatty and gristly, but it's protein. You're chewing carefully, trying to separate the edible parts from the bits that are too tough. You swallow some of it. Other bits you're quietly spitting back into your bowl when no one's looking. The vegetables are turnips, onions, cabbage. They've been boiled into submission. The turnips are mushy and bland. The cabbage is grey and smells sulphurous. You're eating it because you have to, not because you want to. On a bad day, the stew is mostly liquid with some grains or peas. Pottage, they call it. It's thin and watery. You're trying to find substance in it. A few peas float sadly on the surface. Some barley that's been cooked until it's falling apart. You're spooning it into your mouth and it's just hot, vaguely savoury water. Your stomach receives it without enthusiasm. An hour later, you're hungry again. This is your main meal of the day, and it's done nothing to fill you up. You're eyeing the bread basket, wondering if you can justify another piece. Preserved fish makes an appearance often. Salted cod or herring. It's been dried and salted to within an inch of its existence. You're supposed to soak it before cooking to remove some of the salt. Sometimes this step is skipped or not done long enough. The fish is so salty it makes your mouth pucker. You're drinking heavily to wash it down. The texture is stringy and dry. You're pulling it apart with your fingers, picking out the bones. There are always bones. Tiny, sharp little bones that hide in the flesh. You're crunching down on one and it stabs your gum. You're fishing it out of your mouth with your fingers and trying not to make a face. Let's discuss feast foods in more detail. When there's a real celebration, the food improves, but it's still a trial. There are elaborate meat pies. The crust is thick, almost inedible. More of a cooking vessel than something you're meant to eat. You crack it open, and inside is a mixture of meats. Maybe pork, chicken, and some kind of game bird. It's rich and heavily spiced. Pepper, cloves, cinnamon. The spices are there to show wealth and mask any off flavours. The spice hits the back of your throat. It's almost too much. You're alternating bites of the pie with bread to cut through the richness. There are whole roasted birds, swans, peacocks, other things chosen more for spectacle than flavour. The swan looks impressive, but the meat is tough and fishy. You're sawing at it with your knife, trying to get a piece free. When you finally do, you're chewing it for what feels like minutes. It's not enjoyable, but you're making appreciative noises because this is expensive and you're supposed to be impressed. Subtleties are brought out. These are elaborate dishes designed to look like something else. A castle made of pastry and marzipan, a scene constructed from coloured jellies. They're more art than food. When you actually try to eat them, the marzipan is tooth-achingly sweet and grainy. The jelly is flavoured with rosewater or some other floral essence. It's perfumed and weird. You're swallowing it quickly and reaching for your cup. Desserts are rare, but when they appear, they're intense. Honeyed fruits. The honey is thick and cloying. The fruit is often figs or dates, imported and expensive. They're chewy and very sweet. After a few bites, your teeth feel fuzzy. There's a wafer-thin pastry drizzled with more honey and sprinkled with nuts. It's delicate and sticks to your fingers. You're licking honey off your hands because there's no napkin that works. Your fingers are sticky for the rest of the evening. Let's talk about drinks beyond ale. Wine exists, but it's not the refined beverage you might think. It's young, rough, and acidic. It's often watered down, which makes it thin and sour. You're drinking it because it's safer than water and it has some alcohol content. The wine leaves a bitter aftertaste. Your mouth feels dry afterwards. If you drink too much, which is easy to do because the cups are constantly refilled, you're waking up with a pounding headache and a mouth that tastes like something died in it. Mead is available sometimes. It's made from fermented honey and it's strong. A few cups and you're feeling it. It's sweet initially, but the aftertaste is medicinal. You're grimacing slightly with each sip. Some people love it. You're not one of them. But you drink it when it's offered because refusing is rude. By the end of the evening, you're unsteady on your feet. The room is spinning slightly. You're making your way carefully back to your chamber, using the wall for support. Milk is for children and the sick. As an adult, you don't drink it often. When you do, it's not fresh. It's been sitting around. It's warm and has a slightly sour edge, on the verge of turning. You're swallowing it quickly and trying not to taste it. Fresh milk straight from the cow is better, but you're not often in a position to get it. And even then, it's warm and has a strong, grassy flavour that takes getting used to. Let's discuss the smells you live with constantly. Your own smell is something you've become nose-blind to. You haven't bathed properly in weeks. Your body has a ripe, musty odour. Your underclothes are damp with old sweat. Your armpits are particularly potent. When you raise your arm, there's a waft of strong, sour body odour. Everyone else smells the same, so it's normal. But if you could smell yourself with fresh senses, you'd be horrified. Your breath is terrible. Medieval dental hygiene is basically non-existent. You might chew on a twig to clean your teeth occasionally. That's it. The food you eat leaves residue that rots in your mouth. Your gums are probably inflamed. There's a constant sour, decayed taste. When you talk to someone up close, they're getting the full force of your breath. They don't react because theirs is just as bad. It's mutually assured olfactory destruction. The castle has a base smell that's hard to describe. It's old stone, damp, smoke from fires, rotting rushes, and the accumulated scent of hundreds of people living in close quarters without modern sanitation. It's earthy and stale and slightly fecal. You don't notice it when you're inside, but when you've been outside in the fresh air and you come back in, it hits you. A thick, musty wall of stench. You're wrinkling your nose for a moment before you adjust. Let's talk about the actual experience of combat training in more depth, because it's not remotely glorious. The training yard is a patch of dirt that's been churned into dust or mud depending on the weather. Today it's mud. You're standing in it, already feeling it suck at your boots. The training master is an older knight who's seen too many battles and has the scars to prove it. His face is a road map of old wounds. His nose has been broken at least twice. He's missing part of one ear. He's also mean. Not cruel, but he has zero patience for mistakes and he shows it loudly. He's got you doing drills, the same movements over and over. Overhead strike, block, side strike, block, thrust, block. Your arms are screaming. The practice sword is wooden, but it's still heavy. It's meant to be heavier than a real sword to build strength. That's the theory. The reality is your shoulders are on fire, and you've been doing this for what feels like hours. It's been 20 minutes. The training master is yelling at you. Your footwork is sloppy. Your guard is dropping. Keep that shield up. You're trying. The shield weighs as much as a small child. Your arm is shaking with the effort. He pairs you with another knight for sparring. This is full contact practice with wooden weapons. They still hurt. A lot. You're facing off. You're both in padded gear, but no full armor. The padding is thick gambesons that restrict movement and make you overheat instantly. You're already sweating before the sparring starts. The other knight is someone you don't particularly like. The feeling is mutual. This is going to be more aggressive than it needs to be. The training master signals start. Your opponent comes at you immediately. No warming up. No testing. He swings hard. You block, but the impact jars your arm. You're off balance. He follows up with another strike. You're backpedaling, trying to create space. Your foot slips in the mud. You stagger but stay up. He's pressing the advantage. You're just defending, no chance to counter. His sword catches you on the shoulder. Even through the padding, it's a solid thump. That's going to bruise. You're getting angry now. You're done being defensive. You launch your own attack. Swing, swing, thrust. He's blocking, but you're putting everything into it. Your wooden sword cracks against his shield with a satisfying impact. You're pushing forward. He's giving ground. Then he does something clever, a feint you fall for, and his sword catches you in the ribs. The air whooshes out of your lungs. You're bent over, gasping. The training master calls a halt. You're both breathing hard, covered in mud and sweat. Your ribs are throbbing. He got you good. You're trying to laugh it off, but it hurts. Next up is grappling practice. This is wrestling in full armor. You're both suited up in your full kit. The training master has you try to take each other down. You're clanking around like mobile scrap heaps. You grab him. He grabs you. You're both straining, trying to get leverage. The armor makes everything harder. You can't get a good grip. Your gauntlets are slipping off his plates. He hooks a leg behind yours and pushes. You're going down. You hit the ground hard. The armor takes most of the impact, but it still rattles your bones. You're on your back like an overturned beetle. He's trying to pin you. You're thrashing, trying to throw him off. The training master is shouting instructions. Use your hips. Roll. You're trying, but the armor restricts everything. Eventually you manage to roll and get back to your feet. You're exhausted, and the session is barely half done. Let's discuss shield practice specifically. The shield is a piece of equipment that looks simple but is incredibly demanding. You're holding it by a central grip with your forearm through straps. The weight distribution is awkward. Your forearm and wrist take all the strain. You're holding it up, covering your body. The training master is circling you. Without warning, he slams his practice sword into your shield. The impact reverberates through your arm. Your wrist bends painfully. Your elbow joint protests. He hits it again, and again. He's varying the angle and force. Each hit is a shock. Your arm feels like it's going to fall off. After a dozen hits, he stops. Your arm is hanging limply. You're shaking it out, trying to restore feeling. He's already moving on to critique your stance. Your feet are too close together. Your weight is too far forward. Adjust. You're shifting position. Better. Now hold the shield up again. You're lifting it with effort. It feels twice as heavy as when you started. He starts hitting it again. This is building strength and conditioning, he says. It feels like torture. The quintain is another training device. It's a wooden post with a rotating crossbar. On one end is a shield or target. On the other end is a sandbag. You're on horseback with a lance. The goal is to hit the target squarely and duck as the sandbag swings around. Hit it wrong and the sandbag will clock you in the back of the head and possibly knock you off your horse. This has happened multiple times. Everyone's seen it. It's humiliating. You're riding at it now. The horse is galloping. You're gripping the lance trying to aim. The target is coming up fast. You're leaning in, bracing for impact. Your lance hits the edge of the target, not square. The quintain spins. The sandbag is coming around. You're ducking, not fast enough. It catches your shoulder and you're lurching forward in the saddle. You're grabbing the horse's mane to stay on. You manage, barely. Behind you, someone's laughing. Your face is burning with embarrassment. You're circling around to try again. Mounted combat drills are exhausting in a different way. You're in full armor on horseback, doing maneuvers. Charge, wheel, retreat, reform. Over and over. The horse is getting tired and annoyed. So are you. Your thighs are chafing against the saddle. The armor is pressing down on your shoulders. The sun is beating down. You're cooking inside the metal. Sweat is running into your eyes, stinging. You can't wipe it away because of the helmet. You're blinking rapidly, trying to clear your vision. The training master calls for a cavalry charge practice. You're lined up with other knights. On the signal, you're all supposed to charge together in formation. Staying in formation while galloping in armor is harder than it sounds. The horses have their own ideas about spacing and speed. You're supposed to stay knee to knee with the riders beside you. Your horse drifts left. You're correcting. Now you're too close to the knight on your right. His horse nips at yours. Your horse sidesteps. You're out of formation again. The training master is yelling. You're all over the place. You do it again and again. By the fifth attempt, you're getting it mostly right. Mostly. Let's talk about the less glamorous skills you have to learn. Campcraft, for instance. On campaign, you need to know how to set up a functional camp, where to position tents for drainage, how to dig a latrine that won't contaminate the water supply, how to start a fire in wet conditions. These are survival skills, and they're not exciting. You're digging a latrine pit, which is exactly as unpleasant as it sounds. The ground is hard, the shovel is dull. You're hacking at the earth, making slow progress. Your back is aching, your hands are blistering. This isn't knightly, this is labour, but it needs doing. Fire starting in damp conditions is an exercise in frustration. Everything is wet, the kindling is damp, the tinder won't catch. You're striking flint and steel over and over. Your fingers are cold and clumsy. Tiny sparks land on the tinder and die immediately. You're getting desperate. Finally, a spark catches. A tiny ember glows. You're blowing on it gently, coaxing it to life. Too hard and you'll blow it out. Too soft and it'll die on its own. It's growing. You're adding the finest, driest bits of kindling you could find. The ember spreads. A small flame appears. You're feeding it carefully. Slowly, the fire builds. You're ridiculously proud of this small achievement. It took 20 minutes. Let's discuss what happens when you're on guard duty, because it's one of the most mind-numbing experiences possible. You're assigned to watch a section of the castle wall or a gate. Your shift is 4 hours. 4 hours of standing in one place, watching nothing happen. You're in full armor because if something does happen, you need to be ready. The weight is crushing. You're shifting from foot to foot, trying to ease the pressure on your knees. It doesn't help much. It's nighttime. It's dark. The torch beside you provides a small circle of flickering light and not much else. Beyond that circle, everything is black. You're staring into the darkness, trying to stay alert. Your eyes are playing tricks on you. Was that movement? You're staring harder. No, Just shadows. Or maybe yes. You're gripping your spear tighter. Nothing emerges. It was nothing. You're feeling foolish. The cold is seeping into your bones. The wind is constant up on the walls. It's cutting through every gap in your armor. Your fingers are going numb around the spear shaft. You're flexing them, trying to keep blood flowing. Your toes are numb too. You're stamping your feet quietly, trying to warm them. The noise echoes in the quiet night. You hope no one notices you're fidgeting. Time moves incredibly slowly. You'd guess an hour has passed. You're checking with the guard at the next post. How long have we been here? 30 minutes. 30 minutes. You've got another 3.5 hours. This is torture. You're trying to stay alert, but your mind is wandering. You're thinking about food, about sleep, about anything other than this cold, dark wall. Something finally happens. A sound in the distance. You're alert immediately. What was that? You're peering into the darkness. The sound comes again. A fox probably. Or a badger. Nothing threatening. Your heart rate settles back down. False alarm. Back to staring into nothing. The excitement, such as it was, is over in 30 seconds. The boredom continues. Your bladder is making itself known. You need to go. But you can't leave your post. That's dereliction of duty. You're holding it. You're thinking about anything except the pressure in your lower abdomen. This is a test of willpower. You're clenching muscles that weren't designed to clench for hours. You're seriously considering finding a corner of the wall and going there. You don't. You hold it. Barely. Relief comes when you're finally relieved. The next guard arrives. You're giving him a brief report. All quiet. He nods. You're staggering off the wall, joints creaking. You're heading straight for the privy. The relief when you finally get there is almost worth the hours of discomfort. Almost. You're heading to your chamber and collapsing into bed. You're asleep before you finish pulling off your boots. Let's talk about the diplomatic side of being a knight. Sometimes you're sent as a messenger or representative. You're carrying a letter from your lord to another noble. This sounds straightforward. It's not. You're travelling, which we've established is miserable. You arrive at the other castle or estate. You're shown in, eventually, after waiting around because important people make you wait to establish their importance. You're presented to the lord. You bow. You present the letter. He takes it and reads it while you stand there. You're not dismissed, so you stand there in silence. He's taking his time. Maybe he's a slow reader. Maybe he's making you wait on purpose. Your legs are tired. You've been travelling all day. You're hungry. You're thirsty. You're ignored. Finally, he looks up. He asks you a question about the letter's contents. You're answering carefully. Your words could affect negotiations between your lords. You're trying to be diplomatic, non-committal where appropriate, clear where necessary. He's not satisfied with your answer. He's pressing you. You're mentally scrambling. You don't have the authority to negotiate. You're just the messenger. You're explaining this politely. He's annoyed. This isn't your fault, but you're the one standing here. You're the target of his irritation. You're keeping your face neutral, your tone respectful. Internally, you're cursing your lord for sending you on this errand. Eventually, he dismisses you. You're shown to a room. You're staying the night because travel is slow and you can't make it back before dark. The room is small and cold. The evening meal is served. You're eating with the household. You're seated below the salt, indicating your lower status as a visitor. The food is adequate. Not great, not terrible. You're too tired to care. After the meal, you're excused. You're retreating to your room and sleeping fitfully in a strange bed. In the morning, you're given a reply letter. You're starting the journey back. The whole process repeats in reverse. You arrive home, Present the reply to your lord. He reads it. He's not pleased with the response. He's grumbling. You're standing there waiting to be dismissed. This isn't your fault, but you're associated with it now. He waves you away irritably. You're leaving quickly, glad to be done with it. Let's discuss the tension between knights. The rivalry, the politics, the jockeying for position. You're in competition with the other knights in your lord's service. Competition for his favour, for the best assignments, for rewards. It's not open warfare, but it's constant low-level manoeuvring. Someone spreads a rumour that you performed poorly in a skirmish. It's not true, or it's exaggerated, but now it's out there. You're trying to counter it without looking defensive. You're subtly reminding people of your successes. You're making sure you're visible when you do something well. Someone else is trying to undermine you more directly. He's taking credit for something you did. You're both part of a group that achieved an objective. He's telling the story in a way that makes him the hero and minimizes your contribution. You're furious, but you can't directly call him a liar. That would be a challenge. You'd have to duel him to settle it. You don't want that. So you're subtly correcting the record. You're mentioning your role in conversations. You're getting others to back up your version. It's exhausting. There's a knight who's clearly the Lord's favourite. He can do no wrong. He's given the best assignments. He's seated at the high table. He's praised constantly. You're jealous. Everyone's jealous. But you're also trying to get into his good graces because his influence matters. You're complimenting him, sincerely or not. You're laughing at his jokes. You're agreeing with his opinions. It's transparent social climbing, but everyone does it. He's aware of it and enjoys the attention. You're smiling through gritted teeth. Physical confrontations happen. Two knights get into an argument over something trivial. Maybe a perceived insult. Maybe a dispute over who gets to use the training yard first. It escalates. They're shoving each other. Others are stepping in to separate them before it becomes a full fight. Everyone's yelling. The situation is diffused, but the bad feeling remains. Those two aren't speaking to each other now. You're having to navigate around their feud. Whose side are you on? You're trying to stay neutral. It's diplomatically safer, but it means neither fully trusts you. Let's talk about the isolation you feel sometimes. You're surrounded by people, but you're alone in important ways. You can't show weakness. You can't admit fear or doubt. The culture doesn't allow it. You're supposed to be strong, brave, unshakable. So you're keeping everything inside. You're dealing with stress, fear, physical pain, and you're doing it silently. You're lying in your bed at night, staring at the ceiling, wrestling with thoughts you can't share. It's lonely. Let's talk about festivals and holy days, because they break up the monotony but bring their own problems. Christmas is a major event. The whole castle is preparing for days in advance. Extra food is brought in. The hall is decorated with whatever greenery can be found. Holly, ivy, evergreen branches. It looks festive. It smells of pine and damp vegetation. The preparations are exhausting. Everyone's involved. You're helping to move tables, hang decorations, do whatever's needed. Your role as a knight doesn't exempt you from manual labour when there's work to be done. The feast itself is the longest meal you'll endure all year. It goes on for hours, course after course. You're eating until you're uncomfortable. Then more food arrives and you're expected to keep eating. It's a display of wealth and generosity. Refusing food is insulting. So you're forcing down another piece of roasted meat when you're already full. Your stomach is distended. You're feeling sluggish and slightly ill. The ale keeps flowing. You're drinking to help digest the food. It's not helping. You're just getting drunk and bloated. Entertainment is provided. Musicians play. A jester performs. He's doing tricks and telling jokes. Some of them are funny, some fall flat. You're laughing along with everyone else because that's what's expected. Someone's organised a play. It's a nativity scene performed by members of the household. The acting is enthusiastic, but not skilled. Someone forgets their lines. There's a long, awkward pause. They're prompted from the side. They continue. Everyone applauds politely at the end. The celebration goes late into the night. You're exhausted, but you can't leave until the Lord does. He's enjoying himself. He's staying. So you're staying. You're propping your eyes open. You're fighting off yawns. Finally, mercifully, he retires. Everyone's released. You're staggering off to bed in the early hours of the morning. You're collapsing, still fully dressed. You'll regret that tomorrow when your clothes are hopelessly wrinkled and you're even more uncomfortable than usual. Easter brings different traditions. There's fasting during Lent beforehand. 40 days of restricted diet. No meat except fish. You're so sick of fish by the end of it. Every meal is fish in some form. Salted fish, dried fish, fish stew, fish pie. You're dreaming about a proper piece of beef or pork. Easter Sunday finally arrives and the fast is broken. The feast has meat and you're devouring it like you haven't eaten in weeks. In a sense, you haven't. Not properly. The meat is glorious. You're savouring every bite. There are games and contests on holy days, wrestling matches, foot races, archery competitions. You're participating because it's expected, and because there's nothing else to do. The wrestling is brutal. You're grappling in the mud with another knight. There's no technique, just two grown men trying to throw each other down. You're both slipping and cursing. Eventually he gets you in a hold you can't break and you're forced to yield. You're covered in mud, breathing hard, and you've provided entertainment for the watching crowd. Wonderful. Archery is something you're not particularly good at. Knights fight in close combat primarily. Bows are for common soldiers and hunters. But there's a competition, so you're trying. You're drawing the bow. It takes significant strength to pull a proper war bow. Your arms are shaking with the effort. You're aiming at a target that seems very far away. You release. The arrow flies. It doesn't hit the target. It doesn't hit anything near the target. It's wide by several feet. There's some muted laughter. You're retrieving your arrow and slinking away, face burning. Let's discuss market days, because you sometimes venture into town. The market is loud and crowded. People everywhere pushing and shoving. Merchants calling out their wares. Animals being driven through the streets. The noise is overwhelming. The smell is even worse. Unwashed bodies, animal waste, rotten vegetables, raw meat sitting in the sun. It's a sensory assault. You're threading through the crowd, trying not to get jostled. Someone bumps into you and doesn't apologize. You're letting it go. No point starting something in a crowded market. You're looking for something specific. Maybe a replacement strap for your armor. You're moving from stall to stall. The leather worker has what you need. You're examining the strap. The quality is acceptable. You're negotiating the price. He's asking too much. You're offering less. You're going back and forth. Eventually you settle on a price that neither of you is happy with. That means it's fair. You're handing over coins. He's wrapping the strap for you. Transaction complete. The food stalls are tempting. There's a vendor selling hot pies. They smell amazing. You're buying one. It's still hot, steam rising when you break it open. The filling is meat, you think, mixed with gravy. You're not entirely sure what kind of meat. You're biting into it, and it's delicious. Hot, savoury, and different from the usual fare. The pastry is flaky and buttery. You're eating it quickly, burning your mouth slightly. You don't care. This is the best thing you've eaten in weeks. Another stall has apples. Proper fresh apples, not the withered things from storage. You're buying several. They're crisp and sweet. You're eating one immediately, juice running down your chin. It's glorious. Simple pleasure, but it's enough. You're tucking the others away to eat later. Maybe you'll share one, maybe you won't. The town also has a tavern. It's crowded, noisy, and smells of spilled drink and smoke. You're pushing inside. The air is thick and warm from too many bodies in a small space. You're ordering ale. The tavern keeper draws it from a barrel and hands you a cup. It's better than what you get at the castle. Fresher, somehow. You're finding a spot in the corner and drinking slowly, watching the crowd. There's a dice game happening at one table. Men shouting, money changing hands. You're tempted to join, but you're low on funds. Losing money you don't have would be stupid. You're finishing your ale and leaving. Back to the castle. Back to routine. Let's talk about the rare moments of actual peace. Sometimes you're off duty, not training, not on guard, not required anywhere. You're free. This almost never happens. When it does, you're not sure what to do with yourself. You're so used to constant activity or boredom while on duty that genuine free time is strange. You're walking in the castle grounds. It's a pleasant day. The sun is out. The air is mild. You're not wearing armor, just regular clothes. The absence of weight is incredible. You feel light. You're walking without purpose, just moving. There's a garden, small and not well maintained, but there are flowers. You're sitting on a low wall, just existing, not thinking about anything in particular, just being present. It's peaceful, a rare moment when nothing hurts and nothing's required of you. A cat wanders by. It's one of the castle mouses, a scruffy thing. It approaches cautiously. You're holding out your hand. It sniffs your fingers, decides you're acceptable, and rubs against your hand. You're scratching behind its ears. It purrs, a small rumbling sound. This simple interaction is oddly comforting. The cat doesn't care that you're a knight. It doesn't care about rank or duty. It just wants attention. You're providing it, and for a few minutes the world is simple and uncomplicated. The moment ends. You hear your name being called. You're needed somewhere. The peace evaporates. You're standing, the cat wandering off. Back to duty. Back to being a knight. But for a few minutes you were just a person sitting in the sun with a cat. You're holding onto that memory. It'll sustain you through the harder times. Let's talk about what happens when someone important visits. A higher-ranking noble, maybe even royalty, is coming to the castle. Everyone is in a panic. The castle needs to be presentable. The lord is stressed, which means everyone under him is stressed. You're part of the reception party. This means your armor needs to be absolutely perfect. You're polishing for hours. Every piece needs to gleam. Your servants are helping, but you're doing most of it yourself because it needs to be right. Your fingers are black with polish. Your arms ache from the circular motions. Finally, it's acceptable. Barely. The day arrives. You're in full ceremonial armor, standing in formation in the courtyard. It's hot. The sun is beating down on the metal. You're cooking inside your suit. Sweat is running down your back, pooling at your waistband. You're standing at attention, not moving, waiting. The wait is always longer than announced. Important people arrive when they feel like it. You're standing there for over an hour. Your legs are trembling slightly from the effort of staying still. A fly lands on your nose. You can't swat it away. You're twitching your face, trying to dislodge it. It moves to your cheek. Eventually it flies off. You're still standing there. Finally, the visitor arrives. Trumpets sound. The gates open. The procession enters. Horses, servants, guards, And finally, the important person themselves. You're standing rigid as they pass. They don't look at you. You're part of the background, decoration to show the Lord's military strength. The visitor dismounts and is greeted by your Lord. Formalities are exchanged. They're moving inside. You're still standing there. You're not dismissed yet. You're waiting for the signal. Eventually it comes. Stand down. You're nearly collapsing with relief. You're hobbling away, stiff and overheated. The feast that night is more elaborate than usual. You're in attendance but seated far from the important guest. You can barely see them from your position. The food is the best you've seen in months. There are dishes you don't normally get. Roasted game birds, elaborate pies, delicate pastries. You're eating quickly, trying to get as much as possible before it's cleared away. This is a rare opportunity. You're stuffing yourself. Your neighbours are doing the same. There's almost a competitive element. Get it while it's available. The entertainment is more sophisticated. A professional troupe of musicians and performers. They're actually skilled. The music is complex and pleasant. A juggler does impressive tricks. Fire eating, which looks dangerous and probably is. You're watching with genuine interest. This is better than the usual amateur hour. The important guest seems pleased. That means your Lord is pleased. That means everyone can relax slightly. The visit lasts several days. You're on your best behavior the entire time. Extra guard shifts, extra patrols. Everything needs to be perfect. You're exhausted from the constant vigilance and the performance of being an exemplary knight. When the visitor finally leaves, there's a collective sigh of relief throughout the castle. Life can return to its normal level of discomfort and drudgery. The brief spike of heightened misery is over. Let's discuss what happens when you're genuinely sick, not just a minor illness. You're in bed, feverish and weak. Your body aches everywhere. You're shivering despite being under every blanket you own. Sweat is soaking the sheets. You're drifting in and out of consciousness. Time becomes meaningless. Is it day? Night? You're not sure. Someone brings you water. You're drinking it gratefully. It's the only thing that feels good. Food is offered. The smell makes you nauseous. You're waving it away. The physician visits. He's examining you with concern, checking your forehead for temperature, looking at your tongue, asking questions you're barely coherent enough to answer. He's prescribing rest and fluids, possibly some herbal concoction. It's brought to you, it tastes vile. You're forcing it down because what else can you do? It stays down for about 5 minutes before you're heaving it back up into a basin someone has thoughtfully placed beside the bed. You're miserable. Days pass like this. You're lost in fever dreams, strange, nonsensical visions. You're fighting battles that never happened. You're in places you've never been. You wake up confused, not knowing where you are. Gradually, very gradually, the fever breaks. You're waking up one morning and you feel slightly more human. The ache is still there, but it's less. You're weak as a newborn lamb. Sitting up takes effort. Standing is a major undertaking. Your legs are shaking. You're taking a few steps and needing to sit back down. Recovery is slow. You're regaining strength bit by bit, eating small amounts, broth mostly. Your stomach isn't ready for solid food yet. You're shuffling around your chamber, rebuilding the ability to walk. It's frustrating. You're a knight. You should be strong. Instead, you're feeble and shaky. But there's no rushing this. Your body needs time. You're giving it time because you have no choice. Eventually, you're back on your feet properly. You've lost weight. Your clothes hang loose. Your muscles have wasted from the bed rest. You're rebuilding through gentle activity. Nothing strenuous yet. Just moving around, eating properly, sleeping a lot. It takes weeks before you feel anything close to normal. The illness has stolen a month of your life. You're just grateful you survived. Not everyone does. Let's talk about superstitions, because they govern a lot of behavior. People believe in omens. A black cat crossing your path is bad luck. Spilling salt requires throwing some over your shoulder. Breaking a mirror is 7 years of misfortune. These aren't just quaint beliefs. People genuinely fear these things. You're not sure if you believe them, but you're not taking chances either. You're following the superstitious practices because what if they're real? Before a battle, there are rituals. Some knights have a lucky token they carry. A scrap of cloth from a loved one, a religious medal, a stone picked up from a meaningful place. You have a small carved wooden charm your mother gave you years ago. It's smooth from handling. You're rubbing it with your thumb, a nervous habit before fighting. Does it actually do anything? Probably not, but it's comforting. It's a connection to home and safety. There are bad omens people watch for. A raven calling at midnight, a dog howling for no reason, an owl landing on the castle roof. When these things happen, people mutter nervously. Someone will die, they say, maybe in battle, maybe from illness. The prediction is vague enough that it usually comes true eventually, which reinforces the belief. You're trying not to be superstitious. You're a rational person. But when the owl lands and you're heading into a skirmish the next day, you're uneasy. You can't help it. There are charms against evil. Horseshoes hung above doors. Iron nails in specific arrangements. Rowan branches hung in the stables to protect the horses from being ridden by fairies in the night. Yes, grown adults worry about fairy activity. It's part of the cultural belief system. You're going along with it because everyone else does, and arguing about it makes you seem odd or, worse, invites bad luck. Let's discuss the hierarchy within the knightly class, because not all knights are equal. There are rich knights with extensive lands. They have fine armor, multiple horses and large retinues. They're influential and respected. Then there are knights like you, middling. You have adequate equipment, a modest income, and you're doing your duty, but you're not rising to the top ranks. Then there are poor knights, men who have the title but little else. Their armor is old and ill-fitting. Their horse is a tired nag. They're struggling constantly. You're grateful you're not them, but you're also aware you could become them if circumstances changed. Let's talk about what winter campaigns are like, because they're a special kind of hell. Most sensible warfare happens in the warmer months. But sometimes there's an urgent situation and you're marching out in the depths of winter. The cold is brutal. It's a physical force that attacks you constantly. You're wearing layers under your armor, but it's not enough. The metal armor is like wearing a cage made of ice. It's so cold it burns when exposed skin touches it accidentally. The march is slow. The roads are frozen or buried in snow. The horses struggle. They're slipping on ice, sinking into snowdrifts. You're dismounting to lead your horse through difficult patches. Your feet are numb. You're stumbling through snow that comes up to your knees. Each step is an effort. The column is moving at a crawl. What would take 2 days in summer is taking a week. Supplies are running low. The wagons can't keep up. You're on short rations and you're burning energy just trying to stay warm. Night camps are brutal. The ground is frozen solid. You can't drive tent stakes in properly. The tents are flapping in the wind, barely staying up. Inside, it's marginally better than outside. Marginally. You're huddled with other knights, trying to share body heat. Everyone's wearing everything they own. You're still cold. Your teeth are chattering. Sleep is impossible. You're just lying there, shivering, waiting for dawn. Fires are difficult. The wood is wet or frozen. It takes forever to get a fire started, and when you do, it's smoking terribly. Your eyes are streaming, but the fire is warmth. You're crowding around it with everyone else. The heat on your front is glorious. Your back is freezing. You're rotating periodically to even out the warmth. The fire is consuming wood faster than you can gather it. Someone has to go out into the forest to find more. That someone is sometimes you. You're trudging through snow, gathering fallen branches, hauling them back. It's exhausting work when you're already exhausted. Frostbite is a real danger. Someone's not careful and their fingers or toes get too cold. The flesh turns white, then grey. They lose feeling. This is bad. Very bad. The affected area is warmed gradually. The person is in agony as feeling returns. If it's severe, the tissue dies. Fingers and toes are lost. The person's effectiveness as a knight is reduced. They're sent home if possible. Their career might be over. All because of the cold. The actual fighting in winter is mercifully brief. No one wants to be out there. Skirmishes are quick and desperate. You're too cold to fight effectively. Your movements are stiff. Your hands are clumsy. You're just trying to survive the encounter and get back to somewhere less freezing. The campaign is usually abandoned when it becomes clear that the weather is the real enemy. You're retreating back to winter quarters. The journey back is just as miserable as the journey out. You're arriving back at the castle half frozen and completely exhausted. It takes days to truly warm up again. Your hands and feet tingle painfully as circulation returns. You're never volunteering for a winter campaign again. Not that you have a choice. Let's discuss the spring and the return to active campaigning season. The weather improves. The roads become passable. Your lord is planning his military actions for the year. You're being called up again. Here we go. You're preparing your equipment, saying goodbye to whatever minimal comfort you've achieved during the winter, and heading out. The cycle repeats. It's Groundhog Day, medieval style. Same struggles, different year. The spring campaign starts with optimism. The weather is pleasant. The countryside is green and blooming. You're riding through fields of wildflowers. It's actually beautiful. You're thinking, maybe this won't be so bad. Then the first night comes and it rains, heavily. Your tent leaks. You're soaked. The ground turns to mud. Your optimism evaporates. It's the same as always. You were foolish to hope otherwise. Let's talk about the actual politics of warfare, because it's not just honourable combat. There's a lot of manoeuvring and negotiation. Messengers go back and forth, terms are discussed. Sometimes a battle is avoided through agreement. Ransoms are negotiated. Territories are exchanged. It's all very civilised until it's not. When talks break down, that's when you're actually fighting. But a lot of your time is spent waiting, while people more important than you decide what's happening. You're on standby, in uncomfortable conditions, waiting for orders. Hurry up and wait. The military experience hasn't changed much over the centuries. Let's discuss looting, because it's an expected part of warfare. When a town or castle is taken, the victors are often allowed to plunder. This is partially how soldiers are paid. The prospect of loot motivates people. You're entering a captured town. The population has fled or surrendered. Houses are being searched. People are taking whatever's valuable. Coins, jewellery, good cloth, food, anything portable and useful. You're participating because everyone is, and because you could use the money. It feels wrong. These are people's homes, their possessions. But war is brutal, and this is how it works. You're rifling through a house. There's not much. These are common folk. You find a few coins, a decent knife, a warm cloak. You're taking them. The coins go in your purse. The knife and cloak are practical additions to your gear. You're moving to the next house. Someone else has already been through it. There's nothing left. You're moving on. The looting sometimes gets out of hand. Discipline breaks down. People are destroying things for no reason. Starting fires. Fighting each other over loot. The commanders are trying to restore order. It takes time. Eventually everyone's tired and has grabbed what they can. The looting ends. The town is left ransacked. You're marching away with your meager takings. The coins will be spent on necessities. The knife and cloak will be used until they wear out. This is the reality of being a soldier. It's not glorious. It's just grim pragmatism. Let's talk about prisoners. If you capture an enemy knight, he's valuable. He can be ransomed back to his family. You're responsible for keeping him until the ransom is paid. This means feeding him, guarding him, treating him reasonably well. He's not a criminal. He's a fellow knight who happened to be on the other side. There's a code of conduct. You're speaking with your prisoner. It's awkward. You fought against each other. Maybe one of you injured the other. Now you're making polite conversation while you wait for his family to raise the funds. The prisoner is housed under guard, but not in a dungeon. He's given a room, simple but adequate. He's fed the same food you eat. He's allowed to move around under supervision. He's bored and frustrated, but he's not mistreated. His ransom is being negotiated. Messengers go back and forth. His family is trying to lower the price. You're trying to keep it high. Eventually a figure is agreed upon. The money arrives. You're counting it carefully. It's all there. The prisoner is released. You're exchanging stiff farewells. He's riding away. You're richer by a significant amount. This will cover your expenses for months. It's a good outcome. The system worked as intended. Not all prisoners are valuable. Common soldiers aren't worth ransoming. They're usually released after the battle, expected to make their own way home. Or they're pressed into service by the victors. It's pragmatic and brutal. Their lives are worth less because they're not nobility. It's the way of the world and no one questions it openly. Let's discuss the concept of honor, because it's complicated. Knights are supposed to be honorable, brave, honest, loyal, protective of the weak. That's the ideal. The reality is often different. Honor is frequently a performance. You're doing what's expected because that's how you maintain your reputation. But privately, you're making compromises. You're bending rules. You're looking out for yourself first. Everyone does it, but no one admits it. Let's talk about what happens when you're getting truly old for a knight. You're in your 40s now, which is ancient in this profession. Most knights don't make it this far. Battle, disease, accidents, or just the grinding wear of the lifestyle take them earlier. But you've been lucky or stubborn or both. You're still here, but your body is making it very clear that it's done with this. Your joints are stiff every morning. Your back is a constant problem. Old injuries flare up with weather changes. You're moving like someone much older than your actual years. Training is harder now. You're in the yard with younger knights, and the difference is obvious. They're faster, stronger, have better endurance. You're relying on experience and technique because your physical abilities are declining. You're teaching more than participating, showing the younger knights proper form, explaining tactics, sharing lessons you've learned the hard way. They're listening respectfully, but you can see them thinking they could take you in a real fight. They're probably right. It's a humbling realization. Your lord is noticing your decline. He's not unkind, but he's practical. You're being given less demanding assignments. You're overseeing things rather than doing them yourself. You're in command of the guard rotation instead of standing guard. You're managing the armory instead of training in it. These are important roles, but you're aware of what they mean. You're being transitioned out of active service. Your fighting days are ending. The younger knights are coming up, ambitious, energetic, ready to prove themselves. You're watching them and seeing yourself 30 years ago. The same eagerness, the same naivety about what this life actually entails. Part of you wants to warn them, tell them it's harder than they think, that the glory fades fast and what's left is pain and duty. But you don't. They wouldn't listen anyway. Everyone has to learn these lessons themselves. You're thinking more about what comes next. You have your small estate. It's not much, but it's yours. Your plan is to retire there, manage the land, live out your remaining years in relative peace. No more campaigns, no more tournaments, no more sleeping in cold tents or eating terrible food on the road. Just a quiet life. It sounds good. It also sounds boring. You've been a knight your entire adult life. Who are you without that identity? You're not sure. It's unsettling. Your body is making the decision for you. During a routine training session, something in your knee gives out. There's a sharp pain, and then your leg buckles. You're going down hard. Other knights are rushing over. You're being helped up. You can't put weight on the leg. It's swollen and hot to the touch. The physician examines it. Something has torn inside. It'll heal, sort of, but it won't ever be the same. You're done. Really, truly done. You can barely walk, let alone fight. Your career as an active knight is over. The next few months are difficult. You're coming to terms with this new reality. Your leg heals slowly. You can walk with a stick, running, riding for long periods, wearing heavy armor. These things are no longer possible. You're officially retired. Your lord grants you permission to withdraw to your estate. He thanks you for your service. It's polite and formal. You're one of many knights who've served him over the years. You're not special. You're being replaced by someone younger. That's how it works. You're packing your belongings. It doesn't take long. Everything you own fits in 2 chests and a few bags. Your armor is being left behind. You can't use it anymore, and hauling it to your estate seems pointless. Maybe it'll be given to a new knight. Maybe it'll sit in storage. You don't really care. That part of your life is over. You're taking your personal items, your clothes, a few weapons you can still use. That's it. The journey to your estate is slow. You're in a cart because riding is too painful. The cart bumps over every rut in the road. Your knee throbs with each jolt. You're gritting your teeth and enduring it. The journey takes days. You're staying at inns, sleeping in unfamiliar beds, eating unfamiliar food. You're counting down the miles until you're home. Finally, you're arriving. Your estate is small, a manor house that's seen better days, fields worked by a handful of peasant families, a small village. It's not impressive, but it's yours. You're being helped out of the cart. Your steward greets you. He's been managing things in your absence. He's giving you a report as you hobble inside. The harvest was adequate. There are some repairs needed, the usual issues. You're half listening. You're just glad to be here. Your life settles into a new rhythm. You're up early, not because you want to be, but because decades of habit don't disappear. You're walking the estate, checking on things. The walking is good for your leg, the physician said. It's painful, but you're doing it. You're talking to the peasants who work your land, learning their names, hearing their concerns. You're settling disputes, making decisions about planting and maintenance. It's dull work compared to being a knight, but it's necessary, and it's yours.